Recording in progress.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Once again, welcome to happy hour of coaching session. And today's topic is about software estimation techniques. And I think we all have been using some kind of an estimation technique in our world, right? Some of us use very formal techniques which are there. Some of us use also a lot of, I would say, techniques which are based on complexity, techniques which are based on past historical trends, past historical data. So those are the techniques what we normally use in our day-to-day world. So the objective of this session, so first of all, it is not possible to cover all the software estimation techniques, and obviously there's a mathematical element to it, there's some calculation element to it, but at least to leave you with some idea about what is estimation all about. What are the predominant challenges you face while you're estimating a software project, and why there is nothing called as an accurate estimate. So I think today you will come to know that there is nothing called as an accurate estimate. It is a myth actually. Okay, there is nothing called as an accurate estimate in life, and I'll explain that in a moment. Why why I'm saying that there's nothing called as an accurate estimate. And what then, if not accurate estimate, what exactly is that what we should be estimating? So let us start with this session. And about me, Ashutosh Bhatodekar, working as an enterprise agile coach, a trainer, and a consultant. I'm based out of Pune and Mumbai. I mean, my work location is Mumbai, but my hometown is Pune. Although I love to travel a lot, I just wanted to also let you know that next week I will be in Gurugram for the Agility Today conference. So in case any one of you is attending this conference, feel free to meet me in the conference. I'll be more than happy to interact. And yes, that is my YouTube channel. If you're interested, do connect on the YouTube channel. The content is daily growing. Today I published, I think, 141st video, if I'm not wrong, on the channel. So do watch that video. I'm sure those videos will help you in your journey to grow. I'm also available on LinkedIn. And feel free to connect with me on any of the platforms what are there. So I'll be talking about some of the estimation techniques, some popular ones, some not popular ones, and how we can use these estimation techniques. These techniques are not something which I'm going to compartmentalize. Okay, like X estimation technique I can use only in a traditional project, or Y estimation technique I can use it only in let's say an agile project. No, in fact, the very purpose of having this conversation is that we are slowly moving into a hybrid world as far as project execution is also concerned. I'm not talking about a hybrid way of working where I work 3 days in office and 2 days out of home, but even our projects are becoming more and more hybrid. They are becoming more and more blended. Rather than strictly calling them as traditional waterfall project versus an agile or an adaptive project, we do see that the projects are coming together, they are merging together. So many of these techniques can be used interchangeably, not that they are techniques only for one kind of a project, what I wanted to start the conversation with. Yeah. So what is estimation all about, right? Let us first try to understand. And I think I can already see a meaning of the word estimation, which is coming up here on the screen. But just to set the context on what is estimation all about. So, I mean, it's a very long definition, but I'm not reading it out. The key word which strikes out in that definition is intelligent anticipation. I think that's the word we should focus on. Something which is coming with our experience, something which is coming out with our historical trends and data, which is where that intelligent word is coming out. And anticipation, we are predicting something. We are not sure it will happen, but we are predicting something in terms of, I don't really like to use that word, but that's the definition, which is official definition, resources. And when I talk about resources, it includes your human resources. It also includes your non-human resources. For example, the software licenses which I'm procuring, or for that matter, the equipment. So if it's a construction project, any equipment which I'm going to procure for the project will come in as a non-human resources, which will be there. Any facility which I'm picking up for the project. So let's say I have to hire an office. What will be the cost of that office, right? So it is a intelligent anticipation. It is not even a guesswork, I would say. Guesswork, what happens is when I tend to do a guesswork, right, I try to many times shoot in the dark. So it is more about an intelligent anticipation of the work which needs to be performed, or what we are estimating as the work which will be done in the project is what we call it as an estimation, what we call it, right? So that's again not going into the details of that definition, but just trying to set a context around that definition. Now, an exact or an accurate estimate, there is nothing like it. I think I started my conversation with this. A credible estimate is a better phrase, and I'll give you an example. As I said in the beginning of the session, I travel between Pune and Mumbai. So definitely, you can. By the way, you can also catch me on the expressway or in the food mall on the expressway. Any of you are doing that, I'll be more than happy to interact with you. Anyways, so let us say I'm starting from Mumbai, and I tell my family that, you know what, it is. What is the time right now? 8 p.m. IST. Okay, and someone asks me that, or let's say my wife only asks me that, what time will you reach home? And I tell her, you know what, 100% I'm sure that I will reach tomorrow morning 7 a.m. By the way, the distance between Mumbai and Pune, for those of you who are not aware, is around 150 kilometers from the place where I start to the house where I am. It's 150 kilometers. Considering the driving speed and the challenges in India, you should be able to reach within 3.5 to 4 hours between the two cities if you're driving. And I'm driving my own car. Okay, that's what I'm clarifying some of the things. And if I tell her that, you know what, there's 100% that I will reach tomorrow morning by 7 a.m. if I'm starting right now at 8 p.m. IST. Is it an accurate estimate? Yes, no? What do you think? Is it an accurate estimate, what I'm giving, or is it something which is a true statement which I'm making? What do you think? Yes, no? You can speak now if you want. You can unmute yourself and speak. It's not an accurate statement. Why? It is an accurate statement. No, it's not tentative. There's nothing tentative. Pune, Mumbai, 150 kilometers distance. I'm 100% sure that if I start now, I'll be there tomorrow morning. It's a truth. There's nothing wrong in it, right? It is a true statement I'm making. It's a true statement. It is a true statement, but it is not accurate. Yes, it is definitely a true statement. I'm not lying, right? But it is not a credible estimate. That's why I'm trying to stress the word here today. And I'll be talking about it more as we go along, right? Your estimates have to be credible. More than accurate, they have to be credible. And that is a problem. That is a problem with most of the estimates we give as a part of our, whether it can be a part of our bidding proposal, whether it's a part of any request from the client, when we will be able to do. Unfortunately, our estimates are not credible estimates. They are accurate, they are true. I'm not saying that they are false. We are not lying with our customers. I can very well vouch that being in the industry, working with so many organizations, we are not lying to our customers or to our client. But the problem is, in a zeal of giving accurate or exact estimate, there's nothing called as an exact estimate. Otherwise, you know what? I would have hired astrologers and asked them to work on the RFP or a bid document. I would have hired the top 5 best astrologers who can predict who will win American election, who will be the Prime Minister of India, maybe in 2024. I will call them and I'll ask them to estimate a piece of work, right? That can you estimate this project and tell me when exactly, at what moment this project will be delivered to my customer. But unfortunately, we are not astrologers and we don't need astrologers for this job, right? We need people who are going to do the job, to do the estimate, and they should be supplying the numbers rather than someone else on behalf of those people, right? So a credible estimate is a better phrase. So one of the key learnings which I want all of you to take is, moving forward, try to give estimates which are credible. So a credible estimate in the example of me telling my wife would be that, you know what, it's 8 o'clock, it's Friday evening. Definitely there'll be a lot of traffic to get out of Mumbai itself. Plus there'll be a lot of traffic on the expressway. I would definitely like to have a coffee break and some snack break at the food mall. And so probably I will reach between 11:30 to 12 o'clock in the midnight. That is a time frame I'm giving you. And this is a second message which I wanted to give you. Rather than committing a single number as a date when your project is going to end, try to give a range. A range gives a better perspective to our customers. Rather than telling them that I will give them, as I said, on 15th of Jan 2024, 11 o'clock, you will get the solution. Don't do that. Okay, try to give a range of value. A range of value always operates in a better way. Okay, a range of value is always something which will gel well with the customer. They also know that there's a lot of transparency what you're bringing to the table, right? So that's the second learning. Don't go for it. First learning is exact and accurate estimate is something which we should not be running after, because it is never going to be exact and accurate, believe me. And as I said, we are not astrologers. Otherwise, hire the best of the best astrologers. They will probably give you exact and accurate estimate. If they can predict who can be a world leader of a country, I'm sure they will be able to predict when will my project end. And the second important thing I would like to tell is credible estimate should be something like a range. The earliest you can reach, the latest you can reach. So that is the second important learning which I wanted to let you know. Now, when we talk about estimation, there's always this range of, or what we call as popularly, the cone of uncertainty. And this cone of uncertainty takes a shape. It may not be as uniform as you are seeing in this picture. Many times it might start from a lower range, lower fluctuation on the upper and the lower side, or it might start on a higher fluctuation also, depending on how good or bad are you in understanding what are the requirements from the customer. And we all know in an agile world, we probably get only one or two requirements from our customers, right? And based on that, we have to predict, right? So this cone of uncertainty, I mean, this is a very famous cone of uncertainty by Barry Boehm, where he talks about that initially the estimates are going to diverge. They're going to be way off the mark. But as and when things become clearer, your estimates start narrowing down. For example, when I start from Mumbai, my estimate might be, as I said, between 11:30 to 12. But let us say I reach a food mall near the first toll on the Pune-Mumbai Expressway, my estimate might become a little more convergent. I would say that maybe I will reach between 11:40 to 11:55. Then when I reach the Talegaon toll, the second toll on the Pune-Mumbai Expressway, I might say that I will reach in next 20-25 minutes, depending on the place where I am, right? So that is how my estimates start converging. They will start coming closer to that actual number. And this is called as progressive elaboration. I mean, PMI, this is a term borrowed from PMI, Project Management Institute, which says that things become much more clearer, things become much more granular and visible as you approach. It's like a pilot approaching a runway, right? At 35,000 feet, a pilot is not going to see the runway. He or she needs a support from the ground ATC, right? Air traffic controller. But let's say when the altitude starts falling down from 35,000, the pilot brings the altitude of the aircraft to 15,000, 10,000, 8,000. Slowly the runway starts becoming visible, and they can navigate, they can align the aircraft to the runway, and then they can do a smooth landing on the runway, right? So that is exactly what is called as progressive elaboration. And I think more than us, I think we are already aware about it. People who are estimating, when I say we, people who are estimating, we are already aware about this concept. The important thing is we should let our customers and client know about it. That don't expect a single number from us. We can give you a range, and based on the information clarity we have, we will be in a better position to give this number. By the way, this cone of uncertainty, many people mistake it that it's typically a waterfallish cone of uncertainty. That is not a case. This also applies for your release planning, or if you're using scaled agile framework SAFe, this also applies for a PI planning or for a release planning, what you're doing. Initially, when the stories are being written, the cone of uncertainty will be on the wider band, right? There'll be a lot of variation. But as and when we dissect the themes into epics, epics into features, features into user stories, the cone of uncertainty is slowly going to narrow down, and it is going to hit that line, the mean line, towards the end of the release. So it is not a concept which is purely waterfallish, is what I wanted to tell here. All right, let us understand some of the factors which come in our estimation. And I think we are again, many of us would be aware of it. How complex is my system? Whether my system is a known unknown or whether it is unknown unknown. So there's a difference between the two words. Known unknown means I know some of the things, but many of the things are unknown. Unknown unknown means totally a new product which I'm going to design. Like first time I've decided to design a driverless car. That will be an unknown unknown. It depends on the volume and size of the system. And by the way, these are not the only factors. These are some of the important factors which I have listed, which have to be considered while I'm estimating the software. Infrastructure provisioning needs, proposed team maturity, team skills availability, whether I have the competency with my team or not. I mean, those are the factors which have to be considered while I'm estimating the software product. And obviously, I have to also consider the entire elements of a software. I mean, the entire journey of the software development lifecycle is what I need to consider. Okay, some of the challenges we face while estimating a software project. Okay, and I'm sure many of you would have faced these challenges. Many of you would have experienced this first hand when you try to estimate the software product. And let us try to see some of these challenges which are there. The first and a major challenge what we see is inexperienced people are entrusted with the task of estimating the software. Okay, then of course we have the usual ones like lack of training. There is no historical trends are available. So I'm traveling from Mumbai to Pune, but I don't know how much is the distance, or I don't know if anyone has traveled in the past, and I might even end up taking a wrong route. I estimate that okay, it's 150 kilometers, 3 hours, but I go through the old route, old Mumbai Pune old highway, right? I take that instead of the expressway, right? So that is lack of historical data, lack of training, absence of tools. And by tools, I mean those artifacts, those information, historical trends. That could be one of the challenge. And of course, you might end up overestimating something. You might end up underestimating something. Inadequate time for estimation. And believe me, I have experienced this myself. Suddenly on Friday evening, I might get a proposal and my manager might say that I need to estimate by tomorrow morning. How on earth can I do it, right? I mean, I don't even have any clarity on the product, right? What I have to read through that entire set of documentation. And how do I prepare, I mean, that estimate by tomorrow morning? And we don't know the accuracy of that, right? Or we rather don't know the reliability of that or credibility of that. Let me replace the word accuracy and reliability with credibility now, right? So we don't even know how credible those estimates will be, right? And a lack of review. So there's a lack of review because I have to submit it by tomorrow. I always believe, just like in banking system, we have a maker checker process. So in a bank, if I go and if I want to withdraw heavy cash or a huge amount of cash, one person will not authorize that, although that balance might be there in my account. One person will be the maker process, will say that, yes, I mean, this is a request I've received from Ashutosh. Other person will approve it. Maybe some senior person who has got authority for those approvals, he or she will approve it, right? So similarly, in estimation also, we should have a maker checker process. Someone will initiate the request, someone will prepare the estimation, and someone else is going to approve that estimation at the end of the day. Business pressure, sorry, to ignore genuine estimation. What is this? That we somehow want this contract. We cannot lose this contract. So I decrease my estimates, right? So my delivery team might have given some estimates, but the bid team or the pre-sales team goes ahead and reduces it by 20%. You should never do that. You will keep the estimates as same. See, reducing estimation and reducing price are two different things. Unfortunately, we try to correlate with them. We have to de-link both of them. Just because you have reduced the price doesn't mean that we'll be able to deliver in a lesser time, right? Your time required or the effort required is still going to be the same of what is there, right? So you might want to give a discount to the customer. That is totally agreeable. And I'm not denying that you might have to do some discounts. You might have to give some leeway to the customer or some free things with this. But that should not impact our estimate. Your estimate still remains the same. So that is another important thing. And last, but definitely not the least, estimate not given the seriousness it should have. I mean, yes, it is considered as something like, okay, let's do it quickly. There's nothing called as quickly doing an estimation, right? And especially for a complex systems where we all work, it takes time. It requires its own sweet time to come out with an estimate around it. So these are some of the top challenges which we face in an estimation point of view, right? And let us understand what is the problem with overestimation. So can anyone tell me, anyone wants to speak out, what is the problem with overestimation? Any thoughts? If I overestimate something, actually it is going to take, let us say, only 20 hours, but like I did right in the beginning of this class, I overestimated my time from Mumbai to Pune. I said 12 hours or 13 hours. What will be the problem with overestimation? Yeah, I will lose the trust of the client. My wife is never going to believe me. She will say that, I mean, he's doing something else, right? He probably will stay somewhere in a hotel in between and then start in the morning, right? When she comes to know about the actual time it takes, right? So you'll lose that trust factor. You will lose that credibility, what you are trying to gain, right? When you tend to do an overestimation. So overestimation, most of the immediate thing, what is going to happen is the project will not be awarded to you. Okay, it will show that the team is very poor in estimation, what is there, right? So that is what you will see that happening, right? And even if you get a piece awarded, let's say you get the estimate, I mean the work awarded to you, sorry, based on the overestimation, you'll tend to apply Parkinson's law. You'll try to invent new work. Or how do I go back to the client, right? I mean, I've asked for 6 hours, I did this in 3 hours only. If I tell the client, you know what will happen? The client will only pay me for 3 hours. That is what you get into that mindset. So you try to invent work. You try to do gold plating, as they say in project management terms, right? So you try to invent more and more work, and this results in a danger of a feature or a scope creep. And many times overestimation is also because of double padding. What is double padding? Your team member adds a buffer onto the task. Your team lead adds a buffer. Your project manager adds a buffer. Delivery manager adds a buffer. And finally, the figure what you quote as a bid document, it has got a heavy excessive buffer into it. So those are the challenges with overestimation. What are the challenges with underestimation? Team demotivating, right? Inability to meet deadlines. You lose again the trust and reputation of the client, right? And what you'll see is heavy attrition in the team because everyone will be fighting against that timeline. And overall, what I've also experienced is team will start cutting corners. So they will start reducing the quality checks. They will start reducing the test cases which have to be done. So that is what you will see as a part of your underestimation, some of the challenges from an underestimation perspective, that it should have taken 8 hours, but we estimated only 3 hours. Now somehow we have to rush into it. Somehow we have to do it. So the team will start cutting corners as a part of this, right? So these are some of the inherent challenges, what we see from a over and estimation, under and overestimation technique, what are there. Right. So now that we have discussed some of the challenges, now that we have gone through it, let us quickly understand some of the very popularly used, I mean, estimation techniques in the industry. And they are very, I mean, obviously, we won't be able to cover them today. That is for sure. And I can promise you that I will come back to you with some specific estimation techniques which are used in the industry, right? One, of course, is a rule of thumb or expert judgment. It is not a pure guesswork. I would say rule of thumb is more related to intelligent anticipation, the word which I used at the beginning. It is all about intelligent anticipation of the work, of the estimated time it will require to complete a task, what is there. So that comes in as a part of your intelligent anticipation technique or a rule of thumb. Then, of course, the classic work breakdown structure used in a traditional project management, you create a WBS. We have this classic 880 rule in WBS, where the lowest element in a WBS is called as a work package. And then we start doing a estimate from the lowest level to the topmost level. So either you can do a top-down estimation in a WBS, or you can do a bottom-up estimation. Both have got its own advantages and disadvantages. Bottom-up means you should know up to what level your WBS has been constructed. Then you start from the lowest level of the WBS, and then you start rolling up the estimates which are there. Top-down estimation is usually used when you have a fixed deadline. For example, the client has clearly told you that he needs this project by March 31st next year, 2024. So you have only 1 year and 15 days roughly with you. So you do a reverse calculation that between today's date and March 31st, 2024, how many working days are here? And then how I'm going to sequence these activities. So that is a top-down estimation, what is there. And then what you usually end up doing in a top-down estimation is you start with The top, because as I said, you know the end date, you know the start date, and then you identify how much is basically the time available, and then you tend to distribute the time amongst these phases, like let's say 30% for initiation. Okay, something like that, or not 30%, sorry, that's too much. 10% for initiation, 25% for planning, something like that you distribute. Okay, it's like how variable pay is given in our companies, right? There's a kitty at the top. That kitty goes to various business units. Business units then divide it in sub business units. Then sub business units then divide it into programs and portfolios, and like that it reaches the project. And maybe 30% for, let us say, the design part of it, right? Something like that, you do it, and then maybe 30% for implementation, and 5% for what we call it as the final closure of the project. So you stack it down using a top-down estimation technique. So that is what is called as a top-down estimation technique. Then we have something called as analogous estimation and parametric estimation. These are also, I'm just quickly covering these techniques. As I said, we'll be talking about them in detail when I schedule sessions around them. What is analogous estimation? By the way, both parametric and analogous estimation are based on historical trends. The difference being that in an analogous estimation technique, it is more like an expert judgment. Like past similar activity took so much time, this will take so much time. Coming back to the Mumbai-Pune example, I've been traveling regularly on Friday evenings, and usually it takes between 3.5 to 4 hours. So today also it will take 3.5 to 4 hours. That is analogous estimation. Parametric estimation is based on a mathematical formula or an equation. So the same Mumbai-Pune example, I'll say, you know what, on an average, I cover 55 kilometers in an hour. And especially it is night time, so I reduce the speed. Okay. And plus now there are speed cameras for those of you who don't know, who take a snap, if I violate the speed guidelines. So on an average, I travel, let us say, 55 to 60 kilometers in city. And once I touch the expressway, I travel between 90 kilometers to 100 kilometers per hour. I mean, that's only 94 kilometers of that 150 kilometers. So based on that, I do the calculation. If I'm traveling 55 kilometers in city limit, probably city limit will take, I would say, 1.5 hours to cover in Mumbai. Then that 94 kilometer stretch will take 1 hour, 30 minutes, 3 hours. And then again, the Pune city limit will take another 35 limit, right? Because again, there I have to reduce my speed. Probably I'll bring it to 70. So that's how I calculate it using parametric estimation. You need a lot of good quality data for parametric estimation, right? A lot of, if your data is bad, your parametric estimation is going to come wrong. Okay, so there are those tools which you develop using parametric estimation techniques which are there. So you have analogous estimation, and then you have parametric estimation techniques which are there. Now, one very interesting technique is a 3-point estimation technique. It is called as PERT. And again, not going into the formula of it, but this uses a concept of a weighted average. Again, I'm not going into the details of this technique, but just to tell you in a nutshell, what this technique is all about is it measures the optimistic time. So you estimate the best possible time. So between Mumbai and Pune, I'll say the best possible time is 2.5 hours, what I have reached. Worst possible time is, let's say, 4.5 hours. Most likely, I will reach in 3.5 hours. And you calculate a weighted average here. You can see the weighted average, which is calculated here, which is optimistic plus 4 times most likely plus pessimistic divided by 6. So that is how you do the calculation, and then you come around at an estimation. So it's not a simple average. It's a weighted average. The most likely parameter is getting a higher weightage of 4. And that's why you are dividing it by 6. The total weightages on the top are essentially, I mean, what we see is the total weightages on the numerator are 6, 4 for most likely, 1 for optimistic, 1 for pessimistic. And that's why you're dividing it by 6. Again, not going into the mathematics part of it, maybe some different webinar, some different happy hour of coaching session where I will cover this in detail, right? But just to give you a context around it, this is called as a, what we call it as a 3-point estimation technique. Then, of course, we have a function point and a use case point estimation technique. So let me first quickly cover what is a use case point estimation technique. Use case point estimation technique, it is not a user story estimation. Okay, so please don't confuse it with agile user stories. It is all about how you, for a system, you have an actor or a persona how does the persona interact with the system? What are the various transactions which are happening with the persona is having with the system? We measure those transactions. There's a formula which operates on this. Okay, there's something called as actors. You calculate the actor weights, you calculate the use case weights, and then you identify the complexity factors around technical and environmental complexity factor, and you get unadjusted use case points. Okay, so you get unadjusted use case point, you apply those factors to get the adjusted use case point. Use case point is like a volume of work. Just like when I go to buy a milk, I say that I need 1 liter milk. That liter is a unit of measurement. Similarly, when I go to buy a grocery item, I say I need 1 kg of rice or 2 kgs of wheat. That kg is a unit. Similarly, use case point is a unit of measurement. Obviously, for this technique to be successful, you should be aware about what is the productivity of the team, right? How many use case points they are going to generally complete within a time period. And once you apply that productivity factors on them, you are going to get the kind of, the person hour months, right? How many person hours or how many person hour months this task or this activity is going to take, right? So that is what is a use case point as an estimation technique. By the way, each of this technique, if you want to master, you'll probably need to spend 1.5 hours of a workshop for this, right? I mean, use case point, environmental complexity factors, etc. You'll have to calculate this, and then you'll have to come out with that number. And the same technique is related to function point estimation technique. Okay, so when we talk about a function point estimation technique, what you will see in a function point estimation technique is that you have to decide how many function points, you have to calculate the function points of the application. And there is something called as an external output, external input. There's something called as an internal logical file, external interface file for your application, and then external output, external input, external inquiry. And although this is an old technique, it has still stood the test of time. By the way, I have seen many agile teams using this technique still. Okay, agile teams are using this technique to get an idea about how much will be the size of the release what we are planning. So it's not that it is completely outdated technique. Yes, it was at one point in time a very, very popular technique which existed to identify the functionality of the project which you are developing. And again, I'm repeating here, you may not get the accurate function points, you will get a credible function points, right? When you use this technique and when you calculate what we call it as the data functions, the transaction functions which are likely to be there in the system, and when you apply the value additional factor or value adjustment factor, you will get the adjusted function points which are there. On this, you will need to apply the productivity numbers. So whatever is the productivity of your team, that okay, they can deliver, let's say, 2 function points in 1 week. I'm just taking a hypothetical example here. Based on the total function points, you will come to know how much time approximately they will take to deliver, let's say, 1,000 function points. So this is another interesting technique what we have. And as I'm saying, this is one technique which has stood the test of time. It is still being used in industry. It is still something which is very much popular. And I've also seen teams using it for agile estimation. So yeah, these are the critical elements when you're counting your application. There's an internal logical file. Just to quickly tell you what exactly it is. Let us say you're joining a new company and you are developing an HR system for that company. So your HR system will contain the basic information about an employee. It will contain his employee code, it will be auto-generated, the name of the employee, his address, his or her blood group, his or her basically skill sets. That is what will be the basic information which will be contained. So from a company perspective, that is an internal logical file. So company X hiring an employee, all that data will be maintained in an internal logical file. Then this company, this HR system will also borrow data, something from outside. And that data which is getting borrowed from outside related to employee will be external interface file. So any example of a data which will be borrowed by the system from outside in an HR system, let's say in an employee system, what could be an example of a data which will be borrowed from outside? Anyone? Payroll. No, payroll is an internal data. How can it be external? But you're closer, I would say. the past PF number. So let us say, yeah, background verification checks, another very good example. Yes, background verification checks, past PO, provident fund information, or your social security number validation, Aadhaar validation, those will be coming, or even in today's world, the vaccination details. So I want to make sure that my employees, before they come to office, they're vaccinated. So that will come in as a part of your external interface file, which is there. Okay, so that is maintained by someone else. External interface file is something which is maintained outside the application boundary, but that is coming from there. External input is something which is getting pumped in from outside to the your system. Like, for example, change postal codes. The postal codes have changed. So there's a feed which has come from the postal authority. You have to update it in your system. So that is external input. External output is the reports what your system is generating. So that will come under external output. And external inquiry is the query what you are generating. So you measure these numbers. You measure these numbers as a part of your function point process. And you count the data functions, you count the transaction functions, and then you determine the unadjusted function points. You apply the value adjustment factors. So on the raw function points, there's a value adjustment factor what you apply to get the adjusted function points, and that will give to you, to some extent, the volume or the size of work what you have to do. So these two techniques, use case point estimation technique and function point estimation technique, they will give you a kind of a size of the product, right? How big or small the size is what the size of the product will be coming out with the function point and the use case point estimation technique. Last but not the least, I will briefly cover on the agile estimation techniques, but I can already see a lot of people already know about it. You already will be aware about these techniques which are there. And I think one of the important things in an agile estimation, I think we all are aware about it, is that there is no concept of an absolute estimation. There's always a concept of relative estimation. So whenever we talk about an agile project, we say that it's a relative estimation technique, right? So traditional estimation techniques focus on the size, that, okay, this is the size of the product, whereas agile estimation techniques focus on relative estimation, right? So I identify a smallest piece of work. Relative to that smallest piece of work, how exactly are my estimates coming up, right? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Is what I do as a part of my agile estimation techniques which are there, right? So rather than being absolute numbers, these are going to be what we call it as relative numbers which are there, right? And that is how estimation is done in an agile project, right? And a very famous example, I think you all would have done this exercise about that very famous animal exercise, what is there, right? Which is the smallest animal, which is the biggest animal, what is there. And agile estimates typically operate like this. Okay, oops, I think the share went off. Yeah, I wanted to share something else. So agile estimates typically work on this pattern, right? And I'm just, the screen is coming up on, yeah, I think now it is there, right? So if the smallest cup is 1, what is the middle cup which is there, right? What will be the size of the mid-size cup? And what will be the size of the biggest cup in that hierarchy, what is there? So rather than talking about how much of volume of liquid can go, because if I give you this exercise and I tell you that identify the volume of liquid which can go into the smallest cup, how much coffee can be accommodated in that smallest cup? Some people will say 50 ml, some will say 80 ml, some will say 70 ml. Rather than that, I would say that let me go through a relative estimation, right? So if the smallest cup is 1, relative to this is 2, and relative to this, it is 3, which means the biggest cup is 3 times volume. It can store 3 times more volume than the smallest cup, which is a one-time volume, what is there, right? So that is the main fundamentals of agile estimation. By the way, I have short videos on agile estimation. They are available on my YouTube channel. If you are more interested to know more about it, do watch those videos on my YouTube channel. In fact, I've also talked about an estimation calculator in one of the videos. So do have a look at it. I'm not going into the details, but just to summarize, we use these poker cards, planning poker cards, which have got a modified Fibonacci series. And it is not that one story point means 1 hour, right? It's a range of estimate. It's like a shoe example, what I gave in that video, right? When I go to buy a 8-number shoe from the shop, it doesn't mean that my foot length is 8 centimeters. There is a range, right? I mean, that 8-number shoe from Bata will fit for people for a lower range and a higher range, right? So all the population which fits into that range in their foot length, right? Foot length might be between 8.5 centimeters to 10.5 centimeters. Those all people will be able to fit in into an 8-number shoe. But if your feet size is smaller than that, you will probably need a 7-number shoe. Or if your feet size is larger than that, you will need probably a 9-number shoe. So it is based on that concept that if your shoe is, I mean, the range of estimate is something what is important here. And you use techniques like planning poker, where the entire team is involved in doing the estimation, or you use this technique called as the big wall planning, where the entire team is in the front of the wall and they're trying to stack the stories using what is called as the t-shirt size estimation technique. So those are the techniques what we use as a part of our estimation, right? So we can also use a planning board like this, which uses the t-shirt size estimation, which is a small story, extra small, medium, large, extra large. And that is how we can come out with an estimation. So in a nutshell, these are some of the very popular used estimation techniques which are there in the industry. And I just wanted to give you a quick overview of this technique. The purpose of this session was to give you a quick overview of some of the popularly used techniques which are there. The intention was not definitely to cover them in detail, because obviously in 1 hour, you cannot cover all those techniques in detail. It is not possible also to, I mean, talk about those techniques in detail in that 1 hour. But as I said, the objective was to just give you a glimpse of these techniques. And I hope I have been able to give you a fair amount of idea about these techniques. So I'm now opening the floor for any questions there. And I'll just be unmuting you in a minute. But before that, if any of you is interested, do connect with me. I'm once again putting my slide here. Do connect with me on LinkedIn. Do watch the videos on YouTube. I'm sure you will get benefited from those videos. Also, this motivates us to create more content for all of you. So this is a QR code for the YouTube channel and a LinkedIn profile of mine. Do connect with me. And I'm now opening up the floor for any questions. We'll take a couple of questions in the interest of time. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions here. So this is an opportunity to ask questions. Those of you who are on LinkedIn Live can put in the question and I'll answer it later. So that won't be immediate answer, which will come for people on LinkedIn Live. Yeah, anyone, any questions, please unmute yourself and feel free to ask questions. You can also come on camera if you're okay. I'll be more than happy to see you also.
Hi, Ashutosh. This is Sriram. How are you?
Yes, Sriram. Hi. Hi.
Yeah, not a question though, but I have just a clarification there. In the challenges, also what I see as a challenge is right, like always estimating as my point of view instead of my team's point of view. That is the biggest challenge I'm seeing during the estimations, right? Like whenever they start to estimate, immediately they think, according to me, if I am doing it, I am estimating. No, always it should be done by, like, if my team is doing it, I know much strength of my team. Is that
Correct,
right?
correct.
That's a challenge I see always a lot there.
I agree with you. I mean, that I, me, myself has to be made more into they. I mean, let the team
Yeah.
collectively estimate. Right, right. Absolutely. I mean, that is another problem. I mean, yeah, that is a good food of thought that, I mean, rather than I doing unilaterally, many times that happens, right? We end up doing unilaterally what is there.
Yeah, because
Right.
I see that as a challenge. Whenever we say like, okay, can you call? I'll give points. They say like, I don't know nothing about it. I estimated it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't
Okay.
estimate it by yourself. Estimate thinking about your team strength.
Correct. And yes, I mean, and you are in a better position to know about your team, right? You are in a better position that what strengths they have, what weakness they have, and accordingly estimate. Yeah, Sachin has a question. No, I didn't talk of which was the day-wise estimation. See, day-wise estimation, I talked about, I think, in WBS, right? WBS, but again, that is 880 rule. It is not day-wise estimation. In WBS, You slice and dice the work to the smallest level, where the smallest level work is between 8 hours and 80 hours. That is a WBS based work breakdown structure based or WBS estimation.
Can you just go one slide back? There was one in Agile way.
Yes, okay.
In the
So agile way of estimation. Ideal days. Okay, that is
sorry,
ideal.
ideal days. Sorry, my bad.
Ideal days is basically without interruption, how much time will it take for the task to be completed? Like, let's take this cricket match which is going on right now, right? Between India and Australia. I don't know if it is over by now. Anyways, but ideal time is that it should get over by 8 hours. But let's say there's a rainfall in between, rainfall interruption, then the match gets delayed. That is the actual time. So ideal days is the time it will take for you to complete a task without any breaks or interruption, without and assuming that everything what you need for that task is available to you. That is ideal days or estimation technique what we have. So in Agile, we follow that also many times. Okay. Anyone else? Any other question? I see. Yeah, I think hand is okay. It was Sachin only. Okay, so that's a good question, Parul. That when we are kicking off a new project, we are giving a BRD. Yes. See, again, that depends on the kind of detailing you have in BRD, and that's where I said, right. I mean, even your customers have to be aware about this. That if the detailing is not there, how do you expect me to go for a detailed estimate, right? So you might give a top level estimate initially, and as and when things evolve, you might start detailing it out. But if you, let's say, if you have use cases available of critical business scenarios, you might want to go in for a use case point estimation technique also. So if your business analysts have prepared use cases around it, do go for a use case point estimation also. That also might work in this case. Yeah. Anyone else? Any question? Oh, sorry. So what I was telling was that this is a workshop which I conducted very recently. So obviously, we won't be able to go through all the slides in this 1 hour. That is what I was trying to tell here. Yeah, but yeah, definitely. I mean, some point in time, we will be covering these techniques. Yeah, you can claim one PDU for this session. You can just put it on the PMI website. And by the way, if you watch videos also, you can claim free PDUs. Okay, my site gives you that requisite 60 PDUs for maintaining your entire PMP certification. So you have to be a subscriber, obviously, and that is free. There's no charge for it. Okay, and yeah, you can claim PDUs for this and the previous webinars also. You can connect with me later one-on-one if you are facing any challenge in uploading the PDU information. So do connect with me. Okay, so any other question? Maybe if there are, otherwise, yeah, you can always reach out to me later also for any questions. You can also reach out to me for any clarification you need or any other topic which you want to discuss. And yeah, we'll be having more such sessions. I think everyone, most of the people are now aware this happens usually on a Friday. So sometimes it doesn't happen this session because if there's a meeting which I have to go into, or if there's anything important which has come up on the personal front, and obviously this session is not there. We also invite speakers to come and talk. And yeah, in coming weeks, you'll see some other speakers also who will be coming and talking on topics which are there. So thanks everyone. Thanks for investing your Friday evening with me. I hope this was worth the time what you invested. And as I always say, right, I hope you got a rooty moment. Return on time invested is what you got. And on that note, I would like to thank each one of you, and happy Friday and a great weekend ahead to all of you. Thank you very much, and bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashutosh.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Aspush.